Hello, my friends. I'm in a little bit of a conundrum. For the past 3 or 4 months, life has been very, very busy. Three of my best friends got married. I started school again and taking creative writing classes over at U of T, and I'm applying for my master's degree, which I hope to start next fall. So life has been very hectic, and because of that, I lost my reading momentum. It's mid-October right now, so I have 2.5 months left until the end of the year, and I have 17 books left on my reading challenge, so I have to catch up. The thing is, I still wanted fall themed books. Like, I didn't want to read just anything. I wanted something that's on the theme of Halloween, and once Halloween is over, I want cozy books for November and even December. Like, December is not even winter for like the first 3 weeks. I live in Canada, so it's like that. I was kind of hoping that I can put my TBR or my sort of TBR out there just to talk about the books that I want to read this fall, and even to get other opinions and advice on maybe what I should read, or if anyone has any recommendations, or if I should not even bother reading a book because it was just that bad and be a waste of time. Anyway, I went to the library and I basically wiped out like half of it because I have 8 books checked out right now. I thought I can go over some of the books, and I'm really, really excited to read them because they're like very basic Halloween books, but I haven't actually bothered reading them. I don't know why. I think because like I never really cared about Halloween until recently. Like fall, I like fall because I associate it with school and I love the feeling of buying new stationery. But aside from that, I never really cared that hard about Halloween. I was always a Christmas kind of gal, but I don't know. You know, you grow up, my frontal lobe started developing, and I'm like, how could I miss out on Halloween like this? It's the greatest holiday of all time. The first one is Kiki's Delivery Service. I loved the Studio Ghibli movie. I think it's probably my favorite Ghibli, or is it Ghibli? I always forget. It's like GIF or GIF. I don't know. I always forget which one it is. But I really like their movies. I only watched like maybe 3 or 4 of them in my entire life, but the ones I have seen, like they always left an impression on me, as they have done for so many people. And Kiki's is probably my favorite one that I've seen so far because it's just about like the sweet little witch. She's just going off on her own and learning about the world, and she has this cute little black cat that accompanies her, and this is the book that I guess the movie is based off of. And it's really cool because when I was like flipping through it, there are like illustrations on some of the pages, and I haven't seen illustrations in a book in so long. So I'm very, very excited to get to this. I'll read the back blurb. Half-witch Kiki never runs from a challenge, so when her 13th birthday arrives, she's eager to follow a witch's tradition, find a new town to call home for 1 year. Brimming with confidence, Kiki flies off to the seaside village of Kuriko, expecting that her powers will easily bring happiness to the townspeople. But gaining the trust of the locals and finding success is trickier than she expected. With her faithful, wisecracking black cat Gigi by her side, Kiki faces new challenges and forges new friendships, ultimately realizing that magic can be found in even the most ordinary places. Blending fantasy with charm of everyday life, this new translation of Eiko Kadono's beloved classic will witch the heart of new readers and dedicated fans alike. I can't wait. I also got Donna Tartt's The Secret History, and this book looks so rough. It has been through a lot. I avoided reading any of Donna Tartt's books for a long time because I always seen mixed reviews about this author's work, and I heard that it's just like pretentious, dark academia, university vibes. I don't know. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. I don't know. It gets to me. I think it's because I started watching Gilmore Girls for the first time, which is like, I heard it's like a big fall show, and well, I had to watch it. I started watching it, and the main character, she goes to, I don't want to spoil it if anyone hasn't seen it, but she goes to a very prestigious university, an Ivy League university, and there's something about the aesthetic of like being snotty and rich and getting to go to a school like that. And I don't know if that's what this is about. Actually, let me read the blurb for this as well. But I don't know, I thought that this kind of fits in with the fall vibes. I probably won't read it in October because I do want to get all the Halloween themed books out of the way first, but I would like to read this in like maybe November. Under the influence of their charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits at an elite New England college discover a way of thinking and living that is a world away from the humdrum existence of their contemporaries. But when they go beyond the boundaries of normal morality, they slip gradually from obsession to corruption and betrayal, and at last, inexorably, into evil. I just realized I've never said that word out loud before. I don't even know if I pronounced that right. Inexorably. Okay, I think I got that right. Okay, that's actually more interesting than I thought. Looking forward to it. The next book I got is Alice Hoffman's Magic Lessons. So Alex Hoffman wrote the Practical Magic books, and I loved the Practical Magic movie when I was little, and so I decided to read the book, and I had to say this is probably one of the few instances where I thought the movie was genuinely better than the book. I loved the movie. The book was like good. It was alright. But it wasn't my favorite. However, Alice Hoffman wrote 4 books that are all in the same universe. So this is one of the books. It's like a prequel, and I believe it's set in like the 1600s, and I think it's about like the first ancestor, like the first witch, that the main characters in the Practical Magic book is based off of. Where does the story of the Owens bloodline begin? With Maria Owens in the 1600s, when she's abandoned in a snowy field in rural England as a baby. Under the care of Hannah Owens, Maria learns about the nameless art. Hannah recognizes that Maria has a gift, and she teaches the girl all she knows. It is here that she learns her first important lesson. Always love someone who will love you back. When Maria is betrayed by the man who once declared his love for her, she follows him to Salem, Massachusetts. Here she invokes the curse that will haunt her family, and it is here that she learns the rules of magic and the lesson she will carry with her for the rest of her life. Love is the only thing that matters. Okay, that actually sounds super interesting. I'm really excited, and I remember looking up the reviews for this book, and they were pretty good. People were saying that this one was actually better than the original Practical Magic book, so I'm looking forward to that. We have Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. I got this because it has like a Gothic feel to it from what I've heard. Also because I was an English major, and for some reason every single other English major has read Wuthering Heights except for me. Anyways, I heard that Emerald Fennell is making it into a movie, and that they cast Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi as the main characters, as I think Catherine and Heathcliff, I believe those are the 2 main characters. And there's a lot of controversy over it because apparently the character of Heathcliff is not meant to be a white man. Like, he faces a lot of prejudice and racism. That's what people say online. And then other people are saying, actually, his race was never mentioned. It wasn't really a part of the book. And so now I'm kind of, like, curious. Before I make any kind of judgment on the movie, I want to make sure that I read the book first. And I heard it's a wonderful book. I heard it's a masterpiece, and so I'm very excited to read it. Virginia Woolf said of Emily Bronte that her writing could make the wind blow and the thunder roar. The windswept moors are the unforgettable setting on this tale of the tormented love between the foundling Heathcliff and his wealthy benefactor's daughter, Catherine Earnshaw. Through Catherine's betrayal of Heathcliff and his bitter vengeance, their mythic passion haunts the next generation even after their deaths. Incorporating elements of many genres, from Gothic novels and ghost stories to poetic allegory, and transcending them all, Wuthering Heights is a mystifying and powerful tour de force. I don't know if there was any spoilers in that. Their deaths? Catherine's betrayal? They're kind of giving away the entire plot. I do like this font though. This font, like, I don't know. Oh, that's super clear. I like it when words are super packed in together like that. I think it's so aesthetic. I'm looking forward to that. Now I have 2 books that aren't necessarily Halloween themed, but I still want to read them, which is Finnegan of the Rock by Melina Marchetta and Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. And so the reason I got these books is because Melina Marchetta is actually, like, she wrote one of my favorite books of all time called Jellicoe Road. And this is a fantasy book. I'm not going to get into the summary of this right now because it's not necessarily like a fall book, but it's still on my TBR. I still want to read it. I just don't know if I should read it for the fall, you know, because I still want them to be fall-based books. But this is a fantasy, and I'm not a huge fantasy reader, like high fantasy especially. I'm not a big fan of that, but I'm going to trust the author on this one because I just love her that much. And then I got Small Things Like These because I heard it's a great book. It's fairly small, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I know it's about like the Magdalen laundries in Ireland, which I believe is when they institutionalized women for being promiscuous, or just not being like the standard woman who like confines to society. I know that Cillian Murphy's in this movie, and it's coming out in November, so I wanted to read this before the movie came out. So I might still stick with it. Okay, the last book that I got from the library that I wanted to read in time for Halloween, I actually don't have it with me physically right now. It's like downstairs somewhere, but it's actually Edgar Allan Poe's Stories for Halloween. A couple friends and I decided that we're going to start a book club, and our first ever meeting is the end of October, and we were like, well, we have to read a Halloween themed book October. The thing is, no one really has a whole lot of time this month, and so we can't sit down and read like a big fleshy book, and so I was like, why don't we read some Edgar Allan Poe short stories? So far, I'm really appreciating Poe stories, and I always forget, like, you know, these great writers from the 1800s are so great for a reason, and I'm reading his stories, and I'm looking at words every other sentence because there's so many words I just don't know, which got me thinking, like, do we just use less big words in like contemporary language? Because most of the books I read in recent times don't use language like that. They don't use these like super specific words, you know, like I'm always looking things up because I just don't know what it means. But I think that's also because we kind of stopped using those words, which makes sense because it's been 200 years. I literally have a reading journal where I started recording all these words I just don't know. I'm reading these Edgar Allan Poe stories, and every other sentence there's a word I don't know. And so I'm stopping every 2 sentences to write down this word and look at the definition. And I feel so much better for it because this whole time I was like, you know what? English is a great language, but there's other languages where you can express things better, like in Arabic or Spanish. But I'm like, no, actually, you can express things pretty well in English too. I just don't have the vocabulary for it. Despite me being an English major, despite me growing up in an English-speaking country and speaking English my entire life, there's so much I still don't know, which is, I think, the beauty of language, which is why I'm so excited to read more classics, and I'm very excited to read more authors from the 19th century because, whoa, their use of language is pretty cool. Anyway, I also have books that I didn't check out from the library. I actually bought. Let me pull them out. I have a bunch of books from this publisher. I don't know if it's like a Canadian thing, but there's a bookstore here where they sell all these classics from this publisher for like 3 books for $10 or something like that. And so whenever I'm at that bookstore, I always just end up buying classics. Even if I'll never read them, even if I never heard of them before, I buy them anyway because 3 for $10 is a crazy steal. First, I got Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. I actually don't know much about Carmilla except that I believe that she's a vampire, and this book came out before Dracula, but it just doesn't get as much press. Oh, there we go. They explain it here. Before Dracula, there was Carmilla, a haunting revolutionary tale of love and vampirism in the early 19th century. Nothing is what it seems when a wealthy English widower and his daughter Laura unexpectedly welcome the young Carmilla into their isolated Styrian castle. Though Laura is quickly charmed by Carmilla's grace and beauty, she thereafter falls victim to a strange, unidentifiable illness that threatens to take her life. And when an old family friend reappears to shed light on Carmilla's mysterious past, Laura realizes her dear friend may prove deadly after all. A testament to Sheridan Le Fanu's extensive literary career and brilliant imagination, Carmilla has immortalized sensationalist romance horrors, much like the alluring vampiress herself, as a staple of modern storytelling. Sold. And then we got Bram Stoker's Dracula. I can't believe I've never read this before. I think I always just steered away from like Frankenstein, Dracula, like old classic horror sci-fi genres, but I read Frankenstein I think early last year and I actually really loved it. I thought it was so beautiful, and I realized that I've been really selling myself short, and so I'm excited to read Dracula. Dracula 1897 begins with a young solicitor, Jonathan Harker, on his way to Transylvania to meet Count Dracula, who is buying property in London. Harker endures a nightmarish stay at Dracula's castle, which foreshadows some bizarre events in England. First, a huge wolf-like creature is seen to leap from the deck of a Russian ship, which has run aground on the shores of Whitby, its captain dead at the helm, its captain dead at the helm, and its crew mysteriously absent. And then Lucy, a friend of Harker's fiancée, Mina, develops a strange, wasting disease and red marks on her throat. Vampire expert Professor Van Helsing convinces Harker and his friends that if Mina is not to share the same fate as poor undead Lucy, Dracula must be caught and ritually killed. That is so intense. I did not know that was the story of Dracula. Then we got The Yellow Wallpaper and Other Stories by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I am probably the most excited to read The Yellow Wallpaper because I heard it's about a woman who I think starts to lose her mind because of her husband or something. And I just love stories that are centered on women, especially that were written in the 1800s, because back in the day, it's like, for women to even write stories about themselves, it was a very audacious move, you know, for women to write women protagonists who had their woman thoughts and their woman opinions. Like, that was such a big deal. And I learned about this in like one of my classes recently. I'm taking a novel writing class, and that's what my instructor was talking about, which is that, you know, we take for granted the fact that if you're a woman, you can just write a book and put it out there, and if your protagonist is female, like, that's totally okay. That's normal. People love books with female protagonists, but that wasn't such a huge thing back in the day. And the fact that there are so many stories like that that came out from hundreds of years ago, I think that's so admirable, and I'm so excited to get into this because I love reading books about women. Featuring several of her greatest stories, including The Yellow Wallpaper, this collection showcases Charlotte Perkins Gilman as a leading light of both fiction and feminism. In the title story, a young woman is confined to her room by her husband for the sake of her health. With nothing to distract her apart from the patterns of the wallpaper itself, she slowly spirals into insanity. Is this a Halloween book? I think it's spooky. It's kind of scary. So yes. Last, we have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Victorian London is the setting for the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1886. Stevenson's famous story of conflict between dual personalities, one good and one ruthlessly evil. Other eerie tales in this volume are The Body Snatcher, 1881, inspired by the case of Burke and Hare; Markheim, 1885, where a murderer meets a sinister smiling stranger; and The Bottle Imp, 1893, in which an imp has the dubious power to grant the owner's every wish. Also, The Wear of Hermiston, 1896, an unfinished romance. I only just realized that there were other stories in this book. I thought I just got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So far I have 10 books that are on my fall TBR. So far, the books I went through. But I still need 7 more books to read until the end of the year, and I prefer them to be fall themed. They don't have to be. I guess like near the end of December I can start reading more winter themed books, but I really want to celebrate fall this time, okay? I spent the last like 20 something years of my life not really caring about fall and not caring about Halloween. I'm not a big horror fan because I get really scared. Like, I read the Wikipedia synopsis for a horror movie the other day and I literally could not go to sleep. I couldn't go to sleep after reading a Wikipedia synopsis of a horror movie. So I'm not good with horror, but I think like thrillers or like very light horror is okay for me. I don't know what else to add to my TBR, and I would love some recommendations. I'd love some advice, or if you liked some of the books that you heard me read the summaries of in this video, then I'm so happy. I hope you go out and get it. I'd like to make some more videos of everything that I'm learning in my writing classes right now because I just feel so thrilled that I'm writing again. And I'm just happy to be back doing that because, I don't know, I just feel very right doing that. And I feel like I learned a lot of things and I'd like to talk about those things in future videos. Hope you have a spooky October or November or whenever you're watching this. And I'll see you next time. Bye!